pain is inevitable. Like anytime that you're pursuing anything worthwhile, you're going to experience pain, physical, mental, emotional, all of it. Suffering is optional. The prayer should be about strength. Give me the strength. Give me the endurance. Give me the courage. Not remove this struggle from me, but build me into somebody who can carry it. Life's not predictable. But when you can be self-reliant and stay the course and stay the path and align to your values and align to your goals, when it's uncertain, when you're doubting, when you're tired, when you failed yesterday, that's where self-reliance is built. And Atlas athletes, I'm talking to you, you are not stuck in being who you were in the sport. That version of you mattered. That version of you accomplished a lot. That version of you was great. It shaped you. It built parts of you. But it doesn't get to limit who you become next. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Next Season Podcast, episode 42. And I don't want to scare you, but lately the word and the concept of suffering has been surfacing in my life a lot. And it's a little bit coincidental. Not to alarm you. Everything's fine. Everything's good. Everything's great. But just the word suffering has come up a lot in a lot of different ways. Through conversations I've had, through work I've done, at church. It's just this whole concept of suffering has come up a lot lately. And I'm going to talk a little bit specifically about one of the areas that it has. Some people strive to avoid suffering. Like it's you want to avoid it entirely. Like it's something that for many people, it's something to be minimized, avoided. And that is it in some ways success to them is when they're able to avoid suffering. Others, on the other hand, actively embrace, even seek it out and seeing it as a crucible for building mental toughness or as just a crucial part of our human experience that leads to passion and purpose and grit and developing resilience and developing confidence. And so like so many things, I like to work in the nuance and try to live in the gray area. And so this word has come up a lot lately, like I said, and one of the ways it found me unexpectedly was in a couple of podcasts that I had in my queue. I am an avid podcast listener. I've got a select few. I've got a small number that I listen to, but it keeps me busy. It stacks up, and sometimes I put it on two times speed and breeze through as many as I can to catch up. But I'm an avid podcast listener. There's really no end to my queue. But these two, just coincidentally, were back to back in my queue, and I didn't plan it this way. It's just how it happened. I play them as they come in. And so again, back to back, completely unplanned. The first one was a powerful conversation between Alex Hormozi and Tony Robbins. And then the next one was an equally powerful conversation between Chris Williamson and Arthur Brooks. So the four legends, right? Four people that in many ways I respect and admire, people that I consider North Stars for certain aspects of life. Certainly not everything because we're all human, but they're people that I can pull information and resources and guidance and mentorship from, whether they know it or not. So first, in and I can't possibly capture everything from these conversations. You need to check them out yourself, get your own takeaways. But there were definitely messages that stopped me in my tracks. Like it was, I remember a couple times where I was doing something kind of multitasking and I had to stop what I was doing and write down some thoughts. Other times, there was another time I was in the gym, had to do the same thing. I had to pause, stop what I was doing, write down some thoughts. So first, in the Hormozi and Robbins conversation, one of the many things that I took was the mindset of suffering. They talk about it right away. Alex Hormozi has a work ethic and drive that is top tier, right? They both do. And that's why they are where they are. Both him and Tony Robbins and Arthur Brooks and Chris Williamson, all of them, they have an insatiable drive and relentless pursuit of excellence in their areas. And that's why they are where they are. And with that work ethic, naturally is going to come a lot of sacrifices and a lot of suffering. And some people wear that suffering as a badge of honor. Like some go as far as making suffering a core element of their life, foregoing enjoyment, foregoing, not going on vacations, or so they say. Take them at their word or take it with a grain of salt. But some people at least the life that they present is just full of suffering. And Hormozi asked Robbins about duty and obligation as a reason for this drive and pursuit and all the sacrificing. And essentially, the question was, how do you balance enjoyment? Or do you just embrace that suffering? Do you embrace that duty and obligation to the work? And Tony Robbins expertly challenged Hormozi a bit, acknowledging that it can be part of a season. Like you can go all in for a period of time. But then he knocked him with an important distinction. Pain is inevitable. Like anytime that you're pursuing anything worthwhile, you're going to experience pain, physical, mental, emotional, all of it. Suffering is optional. And I've heard this phrase before, this quote before, right? Pain is inevitable and suffering is optional. But for some reason, this time it hit me very differently. And again, that was early in the conversation and only got better. So definitely check out that one on your own. But I want to focus a little bit more on the other one, the other podcast that I listened to next. And that was the conversation between Chris Williamson and Arthur Brooks. And if you ever listen to either of these guys, any of the four, but certainly these two, get your notebooks ready because there is so much to take away and apply. So I knew when I started this episode, it was going to be a good one, and it didn't disappoint. The whole thing is awesome. Go check it out. But I want to focus on one part, and it's a segment that honed in on a very similar conversation, a very similar point on pain and suffering. Excuse me. So Dr. Brooks hit on some things that I had never heard about and some things I had forgotten about, like the biology and psychology of pain. I've done episodes on how pain is multidimensional. That's not an unfamiliar concept to me. But there are some other things I had forgotten about. And one of them is like how some over-the-counter pain medicines don't just reduce physical pain, they actually can dull emotional processing too. So he talks about how very common, and I'm not going to get into it because I'm not a doctor. I don't want to go over my skis, but the very, very common two different classes or two different types of pain medicines, over counter pain medicines that we often take have a different effect on the body and on emotional processing. It's fascinating stuff. But then he dropped this 1-2 combo right to my jaw about how suffering can be one of life's greatest teachers. And this is what he said. He said, you can go to the therapy industrial complex and lower your pain, or you can feel fully alive and lower your resistance. I want to read that again. You can go to the therapy industrial complex and lower your pain, or you can feel fully alive and lower your resistance. Sit with that for a second. Because that quote hit me hard. And it's a shift from seeking to eliminate hardship to embracing it as a path to growth, as a path to just living life, the human experience. It's about lowering that resistance to hard things and inevitable pain and just understanding there's a mindset that goes with it. And when you can embrace that pain, it's not about ending pain. It's about embracing it and acknowledging that it's inevitable in our life. And that's what makes life great. I think about it like a prayer, and I've heard this again many times, but a lot of times we pray for life to be easier, or we pray for healing, or we pray for the avoidance of bad or challenging situations. But instead, the prayer should be about strength. Give me the strength. Give me the endurance. Give me the courage. Not remove this struggle from me, but build me into somebody who can carry it. Dr. Brooks went on to recommend that everyone should go home and read the classic essay by Ralph Waldo Emerson called Self-Reliance. And I've read a lot of Emerson in my life. There's a lot that I've taken from it. But admittedly, I'd never sat down and read that. And so I took Brooks' advice, and that night I read it and I took notes. And this episode is me breaking it down for active athletes and my Atlas athletes. So those adjusting to life after sport. I'm going to give you my reflections and takeaways, how it might be able to help you in some of the same ways it's already helped me. So let's dive in. Something I've noticed in sport, and honestly in my own life, sport has a lot of suffering in it. Growth does too. And when we are going through identity shifts and identity transitions or changes and career changes, pun intended here, but next seasons, there's a lot of suffering that can go on there. And if I'm honest, I've spent seasons of my life trying to avoid discomfort. But the people who become dangerous, and I say that in a good way, the people who become dangerous in sport and in life aren't the ones who avoid pain. They're the ones who become someone who can handle it. And that's exactly what self-reliance, the essay, is about. If I had to put self-reliance into one sentence, and that doesn't do it justice, but if I could kind of boil it down to one key takeaway, at least what it means to me as I read it, the other day and as I reflect on it today, it's becoming the kind of person who can trust myself under pressure. Not when things are easy, not when everyone believes in me, and not when life is predictable or following the plan and we're on the path. In the past 2 weeks, I've had a number of changes, a number of challenges. One example, Valentine's Day, February 14th, Friday, February 14th, an absolute roller coaster of an emotional day. Doors that we thought were opening for our family, for us, closed, or at least were are closing. Um, and then a whole other door busted wide open. So this is self-reliance. This is the journey. Life's not predictable. But when you can be self-reliant and stay the course and stay the path and align to your values and align to your goals, when it's uncertain, when you're doubting, when you're tired, when you failed yesterday, when the schedule is absolute chaos and the washing machine breaks and the sump pump is failing and the to-do list is growing and the kids are bickering and you just want to crawl into a cave for a bit, that's where self-reliance is built. Self-reliance, the essay is not short. It took me quite a while to read it and more time to sit with it. And I went through it very deliberately, very carefully. And I encourage you to read it yourself. I encourage you to slow down and really stay focused on it because your takeaways are going to be different than mine. But I want to share with you a few lines that hit me hard and what I think Emerson was really saying, and then how this applies to athletes. If you're a baseball player and you come across this podcast, first of all, thank you. Or if you're a coach or a parent of a baseball player and you're wondering why are we talking about Ralph Waldo Emerson and self-reliance, I'll tie it together for you as well. But it's for my athletes and it's for Atlas athletes who are figuring out who they are after sport, after the game ends. So here's the first message that I got from this. Trust yourself. Emerson wrote, trust yourself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string. You can feel it. Like you can truly feel it when you believe in yourself. That vibration, right? That energy comes out and can be felt by other people too. It's not fake. It's not hype. It's not loud bravado and arrogance. It's not the social media highlight reels and confidence that we put out there of all the highlight reel moments. Real self-trust is quiet. It's steady. It's consistent. It's being calm when things are chaotic. And for athletes, this is huge because if your confidence comes from playing time or stats or praise and recognition or the scholarship offers and the social media attention, it's fragile. That confidence is fragile. Self-reliance, on the other hand, says my standards decide who I am. My preparation decides who I am. My work ethic, my consistency, that is the factor in who I am. That's my confidence, not the scoreboard. Again, it's my consistency and my courage that build my confidence, the keeping promises to myself that I show that I can trust myself. That's what self-reliance means and how you build self-trust. That's the first message. Again, trust yourself. If you're not sure how you trust yourself, do those things. Be consistent, do hard and scary things, keep promises to yourself, and you will develop self-trust. The second key message I took from this might be one of my favorites. I mean, they're all good, but this one certainly is up there. And it's actually two. There's two messages here, but it's about conformity. Conformity kills greatness, and criticism is the price of being real. And there are two lines that Emerson wrote that captured this message. The first line he said was, "Whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist." I'm going to read that again. Whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist. And then another one that connects directly to it. For nonconformity, the world whips you with its displeasure. And now that might sound intense, but when I sit with that, what I think he's saying is actually really simple. The more that I try to live honestly, like true to myself, the more I've tried to become who I'm actually capable of being, the more that I've realized I'm not going to look normal. You know, we talk about this as parents with our kids and what is normal nowadays, right? Um, I think being true to yourself, you have to be a bit of a nonconformist. If your true self is average, kind of what's trending and what's the latest, if that's truly you, great. But if your true self is not that and you try to do that, you're gonna be distressed. I'll give you an example. Somebody I know uses this as his definition of success. To him, if you ask him what his definition of success is, it's being 100% himself 100% of the time. That's pretty cool. Another mentor of mine, Jesse Itzler, has a phrase, says normal is broken. Look around. What we see as normal and acceptable is so far removed from ideal that it doesn't even take that much to put yourself in a better position. Like it doesn't take a whole lot for you to be above average if you're just consistent with those things. It's a series of small intentional choices. Like who wants to be normal? Who wants to be average? I don't. And this message has honestly been showing up everywhere in my life lately. I've had conversations with not I, we, my wife and I have had conversations with our kids about this, about being normal versus being themselves and standing out in a good way. And not cocky, not arrogant, not better than, not elite, humble in that striving for authenticity, but striving for excellence. Again, in these two podcast conversations, and then even at church recently, the message has been about courage and consistency in standing up to cultural norms. And I'm still working through why this message is coming up for me. I mean, I think I'm being spoken to in a lot of ways, but it feels important enough to say it out loud because maybe you need to hear it too. And if you look closely, real greatness never looks normal. Athletes feel this pressure constantly. They're told, don't care too much, don't try too hard, don't be too intense, don't stand out too much. Hey, you're working too hard, you're running too hard, you're making us look bad. Or don't mess up, in public. Don't be different. Just fall in line. And I get it. Nobody wants to be the weird one. Nobody wants to be the one that people talk about. But if I'm being honest, most of the athletes that I've seen that separate themselves from their competition, they have some controlled rebellion in them. Doesn't mean they're not coachable. They are. They're coachable. They're good teammates. They care about the team. That's team first. But they don't abandon who they are just to be accepted. And here's the part that Emerson was warning about with that second quote. If you don't conform, right? Sometimes people are not going to get you. Sometimes people are going to doubt you. Sometimes people are going to judge you. They do me. Many of you might be watching this and ready to make a comment about how bad this is. Go for it. Sometimes people are going to project their fears or limits onto you. And I want to be really clear here. That doesn't automatically mean that you're doing something wrong. It also doesn't mean that you should stop listening or stop growing or stop being coachable. It just means you stop expecting universal approval. And that is freedom. Like the second that you can truly acknowledge and accept that you don't need to be liked or approved by everyone, that's freedom. Because if you spend your life trying to make everyone comfortable with who you are abandoning parts of yourself. That's not strength. That's an attempt at survival. And I realized I didn't want to just survive in my own life. I wanted to live and I wanted to thrive. The goal should not be to be accepted by everyone. The goal is to be somebody that you respect and let the right people recognize that. So that was the second message. Third message that I took from this is you are allowed to evolve. So again, I said it was a recent church message that was about courage and consistency and about cultural norms. And so this next one is about consistency, but it's what I call adaptive consistency. I have something that I work with my athletes called adaptive routines. And I think routines are great. And I think it's a great way to be consistent. But sometimes life's going to get in the way. And you have to have adaptive consistency. And that works in the micro, like day to day, but it also means how we evolve, like how I train or the things I think about, the books I read, my interests have evolved. My goals have certainly evolved from, the last couple of years, last 10 years. I could look back and completely different perspectives on a number of things, but I'm still consistent in a lot of ways. And so there's a line from Emerson that really connects this. And he said, a foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. I have to say that one again. A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. Love that word. What I think that it means, what I took from it is you don't have to stay the same and do the same things forever. Your routines can adapt, your habits can evolve as long as they're aligned to your goals and your values can evolve. I think they're a little bit more consistent and structured. But they can. Certainly your goals can, your standards can. All those things can evolve. You don't have to keep living inside an old version of yourself just because that's what people expect. In plain language, you're allowed to grow. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to outgrow versions of yourself. Businesses rebrand, adapt, and evolve. They have to. So why couldn't you? Athletes, you need to hear this. Because the game is gonna label you early. How many baseball players have come up and they were the shortstop? If you look at the number of high school and college shortstops that will never play shortstop in the pros, but they came up as shortstops. And so that may have been their identity. And if they refuse to adapt and evolve, they're not going to make it. Sport is really good at labeling you. You're the role player, you're the shortstop, you're the bench guy, or maybe you're the late bloomer, or maybe you're the one who's always injured. You're the injured player, made of glass, or you're the under-recruited kid that nobody wanted. And if you're not careful, you start to believe that those things are permanent for you, but it's not. In Atlas athletes, I'm talking to you, you are not stuck in being who you were in the sport. That version of you mattered. That version of you accomplished a lot. That version of you was great. It shaped you. It built parts of you. But it doesn't get to limit who you become next. You're not supposed to stay the same forever. You're supposed to evolve. The fourth message that I got from this essay was action builds belief. And there's a line, it says, do the thing and you shall have the power. I love that. Do the thing and you shall have the power. What thing? Anything. The thing. Whatever that thing is for you. Because it flips how most people think about confidence. So many people think once I feel confident, then I'll act. Once I have everything lined up, I know it'll be time. Once I have to get these things done. Let me get this thing in order. Let me get this thing off my plate. And when I do that, then I'll be ready to go. But in real life, that's not how it works, especially in sport, especially in anything that's worthwhile pursuing. It's the opposite. You act first, you show up, you do the work, you take the reps, you take the chances, you take the risks, you put yourself out there, you take a small step, you send in the application, you reach out to the coach. Yeah, it's a long shot. You show up to the showcase, you show up to the tryout, you take the step. And somewhere along the way, that confidence starts to catch up. In my experience, confidence is not the starting point. It's been the result. It's the evidence of the work that you've done, the courage that you've displayed, and the promises you've kept to yourself. And wouldn't it be better and more meaningful and a more true test and a greater confidence builder if you start when things are an absolute dumpster fire and you have no idea how you're going to do it? Or you want to write a book, you want to start a business, you want to ask a girl out on a date, and you have no idea how to do all that. You have no idea where the money's going to come from. You have no idea if you can do the job that you're applying for. You have no idea if you're going to be able to hold your own against the other players on the team that you want to try out for. Whatever it is. But if you take the step, and that's why things like daily standards matter. But keeping promises to yourself matters. The small wins matter more than people realize. Because every time you follow through, you're stacking evidence. Evidence that you can handle those hard things, evidence that you can be consistent, and evidence that you can trust yourself. This is what I'm saying to myself. Like when I say you, I'm saying me. Like it's every time I'm speaking to myself when I say this. It's not hype. It's not emotion. It's not motivation. Confidence is built from evidence. It's stacking up the bricks, the little things along the way to build your wall of confidence that can block out that negative thinking, that self-doubt, or the actual words from other people so they don't get into your head. We often hear fake it till you make it. And I don't think that that's necessarily true. I don't know if I like that. I don't think it's fake it till you make it. What I've come to realize in the past couple weeks is it's faith that you can make it and then make it so you don't need to fake it. It's faith and belief that you can make it and then make it, do the thing so you don't need to fake it. Here's a bonus line that I want you to sit with. In the essay, he wrote, "Envy is ignorance, imitation is suicide." And I know that's strong language. If you spend your life trying to become someone else, you are slowly killing the version of you that could have been great. I see this so much with younger athletes and older athletes. They spend hours talking about other players, watching highlight videos, playing video games as other athletes, collecting cards of other athletes. And listen, I'm not saying those things are bad. I've played the games. I still think sport cards are awesome. You know, our son collects them. But at some point, I had to ask myself, how much time am I investing in building their legacy versus building mine? Because if all of our energy goes into watching greatness instead of building it ourselves, you start living more in someone else's story than your own. And this doesn't apply to kids, adults. You know, like I said, I still do it. We wear jerseys with other people's names on them. Again, I'm not saying that there's anything inherently wrong with that, but it's a reminder that it's really easy to celebrate greatness. It's a lot harder to build it. But if we took that energy and we took that time, we took those resources that we invest in other people, in observing and watching the greatness to the point where they become our heroes, that they become our idols, and we don't use that as inspiration for us to follow, but we use it as an escape. It's just not a life that I want to live. Study great players, learn from them, respect what they've built, but don't try to become a copy. Because copies don't change the game, originals do. And the game doesn't need another version of somebody else. It needs the best version of you. When Kobe came in the league and they said he was the next MJ. Kobe's attitude was, I'm Kobe. I don't need, we don't need another MJ. MJ was MJ. I'm Kobe. That's greatness. So here are 5 takeaways that I do not want you to miss from this whole thing. Self-trust is a skill, and you build it through reps and the promises you keep to yourself. External validation is unstable fuel and motivation. It works until it doesn't. Third is that you are allowed to outgrow old identities. You're allowed to evolve. You're supposed to. The fourth, courage comes before confidence, not after. And fifth, authenticity creates presence, and people know when you're being real. So let's bring this back to this whole concept of suffering. We talked about the podcast at the beginning of the episode and the conversations I listened to. Let's bring it back to suffering, that main point. And that's where this all becomes real. Because what I'm becoming aware of is that suffering shows you who you are without comfort, without praise, without guarantees. And if you build self-reliance, that suffering stops being something that only hurts you. It becomes something that shows you who you really are. Again, not because it's going to be fun, because it's not. It's not because you necessarily choose it, because you probably wouldn't. But because it reveals what's inside of you. It peels back the layer of the onion and shows what's really inside of you. It carves away the rock around to show the gold or the diamond that's inside. And this is why this matters so much for Atlas athletes, because when the sport ends, your structure is going to change, your schedule, your identity is going to shift, and you're not going to have the same scorecards and the external validation or really any at all, most likely. But if you've never built self-reliance, that transition can feel like a weight that is pushing down on you, just absolutely crushing you. But if you did build self-reliance, you're not going to lose yourself. You're just going to change the game that you're playing. Just taking the same things and playing a different game. So here's what I want you to do this week. If this hits you and you want to take action towards this, here are 3 things that you can do this week to start to build self-reliance. 1, do that one hard thing without needing recognition. Is there something on your to-do list that has been there that is making you nervous or scaring you somehow, making you uncomfortable? Do it. Get it done. I've got 5 on my list right now, and I need to do them. Second thing is catch yourself once, just once, where you're choosing approval over standards. And in that moment, choose standards instead. Are you doing something to make somebody happy? Or are you going to make your decision and choose your own standards and your own values? Catch yourself one time this week doing that. And then I want you to write this down. Who am I becoming through what I'm going through? Write that question down. Who am I becoming through what I'm going through? And think about an answer. And at the end of the week, I want you to reflect on that answer. This is the kind of stuff that I wish I knew earlier. This is the kind of stuff that I wish I understood when I was an athlete, an active athlete. That the pressure that I felt as an athlete and the pressure I felt as a student athlete, and the going from the team leader and one of the better players on the team to the bench, the role player, struggling for playing time, hurt, like injured, hurt, struggling in school, relationship problems, all of it. That pressure that I chose to avoid and run from, I could have embraced. I could have allowed it to be, and I could have allowed it to create me and mold me, but I ran from it. I don't want you to do that. Life doesn't get any easier. But if we lower our resistance, like Arthur Brooks talked about, we lower our resistance to that pain, to that suffering. We don't necessarily get spared from it, but we will build the strength and the courage and the grit to endure it. If you're in the middle of pressure, of transition, or just trying to figure out what's next, that's why next season exists. That's why I'm doing this. If this episode helped you, the best way you can support this show is by liking it, sharing it, dropping a comment. It helps more athletes and families find this message. And if it made you think about where you are right now, mentally, emotionally, identity, one thing you can do is head over to the Next Season Athletes website and take the assessment. There's one I have on there for active athletes, and there's one for Atlas athletes, those who are adjusting to life after sport and kind of navigating what that looks like. It's really just an honest snapshot of where you are. It's giving you awareness and some clarity. And sometimes that clarity is the best place to start. Again, you can find that at nextseasonathletes.com. Would love to connect. Would love to hear from you. Appreciate you. We'll see you next time.